If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Wie wäre es, weniger Zeit mit dem Einkauf zu verbringen und dafür mehr Zeit für deine Lieblingspodcasts zu haben? Mit dem Rewe Abholservice geht das. Bestell deinen Einkauf einfach online und hol ihn bequem und fertig gepackt im Markt ab. Natürlich ohne Mindestbestellwert. So bleibt dir mehr Zeit für die nächste Podcast-Folge oder deine Lieblingstracks. Jetzt ausprobieren auf rewe.de/shop oder in der Rewe-App. Dein Rewe Abholservice. Online bestellen, im Markt abholen.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome. You are now entering the Stone Zone. Well, in breaking news today, Acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba of New Jersey and the FBI announced a crackdown and arrests in an illegal gambling ring involving the NBA, one of the most woke of the professional sports leagues. They uncovered a conspiracy that they insist includes organized crime. Turns out that at least one NBA player and one current NBA coach were allegedly involved in this illegal gambling ring, including the rigging of games and the rigging of an online poker scheme that used technology and AI to defraud millions of people. Let's listen to Acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba.
Over the past 7 months, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey has delivered real results for the citizens of this state, and we're not slowing down. Our mission is clear: to protect our communities, drive down violent crime, and hold accountable those who defraud, exploit, or abuse the public trust. Camden experienced its first murder-free summer in 50 years. In Newark, violent crime has dropped dramatically compared to the same period last year. Our office has charged nearly 100 gang members for drug trafficking and firearm offenses in the last 6 months alone. We have charged 18 defendants in child exploitation cases in charges ranging from sex trafficking to the production of child pornography. This includes a 14-year sentence for a former Boy Scout camp worker who secretly recorded children in camp bathrooms. This office has effectively rooted out fraud, waste, and abuse. Our healthcare fraud and opioid enforcement unit recovered over $500 million of taxpayer funds through criminal forfeiture, restitution, and civil settlements. We have also charged doctors and nurses for diverting nearly 1 million opioid pills, fueling the deadly drug crisis poisoning our communities. As alleged, one physician was even trading oxycodone for sexual favors. When white-collar offenders try to hide behind spreadsheets and lies, we call it what it is: fraud, plain and simple. This month, we charged the former CEO of an asset management company in a $294 million securities fraud conspiracy, a scheme that we allege was built on forged documents and false promises to investors. This same goes for cyber criminals who try to hide behind keyboards as they extort and target victims. Last month, our office, along with the UK partners, charged an alleged member of the notorious Scattered Spider cybercrime group for his role in a series of cyber attacks against airlines, a critical infrastructure provider, and the U.S. courts system. The U.S. Attorney's Office will coordinate with our partners at the FBI to respond to complaints related to the upcoming general election.
Now, there's a certain irony here. The reason that Alina Habba is the acting U.S. attorney is because the two Democrat U.S. senators from New Jersey have refused to acquiesce in her appointment, which is traditionally not an issue. When Joe Biden was elected president, States that had 2 Republican senators approved his nominees for U.S. attorneys, but Democrats in the U.S. Senate have refused to confirm the appointment of Alina Habba. Therefore, Alina Habba, who was originally appointed in March of 2025, is serving in the post in an interim basis based on the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which allows her to serve an additional 210 days before a Senate-confirmed nominee must step in. If the seat is vacated, the federal judges in this district, all overwhelmingly Democrats, do have the authority to name a U.S. attorney, but the president has the authority to fire that U.S. attorney, which is exactly what happened here. The point, of course, is that Alina Habba, the president's appointee, is delivering for the citizens of New Jersey, is racking up quite a record as a crime fighter. Today's announcement by Kash Patel, the FBI director, spoke to this overall bust today, a dismantling of a multi-million-dollar gambling ring tied to both organized crime, including current and former NBA players and coaches, as well as this inside scheme to rig sports betting outcomes for profit. Cheating, corruption, and laundering have consequences. As Kash Patel says, we followed the money and the law caught up. Now, the NBIA has lectured the American people about wokeness and Black Lives Matter for a number of years. They have been the most aggressive in propagandizing against American values, as well as selling out to China with low IQ LeBron James as the poster child for the league's revolting, profit-driven hypocrisy. Now it turns out that some of their players and coaches were allegedly involved in an organized crime operation that may have resulted in rigged games. It's time for Americans to turn off the mind-numbing, ghettoized slop the NBA provides and start tuning into some better choices for sports and entertainment. I personally like the UFC, which honors President Trump. I'm also a big fan of bare knuckle boxing, which is the next big thing. In the meantime, once again, the U.S. Senate should confirm President Donald Trump's nominees to be U.S. attorney, which has always been the custom. You see, they have what's called the blue slip process. It's not a law. It's not even a rule in the Senate. It's just a general agreement within the U.S. Senate that the 2 U.S. senators of any given state acquiesce in the appointment by the president of the U.S. attorney or U.S. attorneys for that state, depending on the size. This is the first time in U.S. history that virtually every state has vacancies or has interim U.S. attorneys because the Democrats have refused to confirm the president's nominees. The president has spoken about suing over this, but I'm not sure who you would sue, and there is not really a law involved. In the meantime, there are some claims that this breakup today of the gambling ring involves the Cosa Nostra. In all honesty, as someone who is an Italian American, I think we are long since past the point that organized crime is dominated by Italian Americans, and I find that reference to be a perfect example of anti-Italian American bias. On the other hand, it is true that because Alina Habba is the acting U.S. attorney, they no doubt, anyone charged by her office is going to attempt to challenge their indictment on the basis of her acting authority. On the other hand, the evidence remains the same, and I don't think that particular legal strategy will work. In the New York City mayor's race, disgraced current mayor Eric Adams, a man who dropped out of the race because after his own criminal investigations were dismissed by the Justice Department, many in his inner circle, many on his staff were either arrested and charged. Others are currently under investigation. Anyway, the disgraced mayor of New York City has now endorsed the disgraced former governor for mayor. He endorsed Andrew Cuomo today. Andrew Cuomo, you'll remember, was forced to resign as governor of the Empire State, 2 steps ahead of impeachment by the Democrats who control both houses of the New York State legislature. Specifically, the issue that brought Andrew Cuomo down was the question of whether he had sexually harassed or assaulted women. He was never charged. Many people believe that he should have been charged in the broader issue of putting COVID patients into nursing homes, which caused a substantial number of deaths. Just to remind you, it was Andrew Cuomo who once said that if you supported the right to bear arms, if you were anti-abortion, that there was no place for you in New York State, that you needed to leave New York State. So I have to ask, when it comes to philosophy, what is the great difference between Andrew Cuomo and the Democrat nominee who beat him fairly handily in the Democrat primary, Zohran Mamdani? This other thing I can tell you, and that is endorsements are nice for press coverage, but votes are not necessarily transferable. So those, for example, who said Curtis Sliwa should drop out of the race and endorse Cuomo make a mistake in believing that all of Sliwa's votes, including virtually every Republican in the city, would switch to Cuomo. They wouldn't. They have an institutional opposition to Cuomo, goes back many, many years. Also true that if Andrew Cuomo theoretically dropped out, not all of his votes would transfer to Sliwa. Actually, although I've seen polling that shows if Curtis Sliwa dropped out, which he very definitely is not going to do, I think he's made that pretty clear, the race would still be neck and neck, although polling this close to the election is exceedingly volatile. Meanwhile, I thought Sliwa handled himself well in the second debate. I don't think he has any intention of dropping out of the race as long as this continues to be a three-way race. And even if it is not a three-way race, even if it ends up being a two-way race, which I think is highly unlikely, I still have to give the edge to the radical socialist jihadi Mamdani, who I think is unfortunately likely to be your next mayor. Coming up a little later in the show, we're going to focus on the case of Michael McMahon. Michael McMahon is a retired New York City police officer who has been badly screwed over by the U.S. government when he got too close to a rogue Chinese government operation going on here in the United States. Rather than charging the Chinese communists, they charged Michael McMahon. This story is going to curl your ears. It is disgraceful. But Michael McMahon's wife, Martha Bryne, who you'll recognize her, she was a major actress for a number of years. She was in As the World Turns. She was an Emmy winner. She's also starred in General Hospital, Crisis, a number of other soap operas and other big picture performances. She's an actress, but today she's not going to be joining us in her role as an actress. She's going to be joining us in her role as a wife and mother to tell the incredible story of the abuse of her husband, Michael McMahon, a New York City police officer who's been badly abused by the Department of Justice. Back in October, I called for President Trump to pardon Michael McMahon. I'm still hopeful that he will do that. Michael McMahon's crime is that he got too close to a sinister Chinese communist operation called Operation Fox Hunt. We're going to break that all down for you a little later right here in the Stone Zone. Meantime, you're listening to the Stone Zone. I'm Roger Stone, right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial because, well, we'll be right back.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, new rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Watch Squid Game, The Challenge Season 2, only on Netflix November 4th.
CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for Customer Rage Machine. Your CRM can't explain why a customer's package took 5 detours? Reboot your inner peace and scream into a pillow. It's okay. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. AI agents don't just track issues, they resolve them, transforming the entire customer experience. So breathe in and breathe out. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radio pain. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. I can't tell you how much I appreciate those warm words from Vice President J.D. Vance. A new poll shows that 70% of Democrats want to give amnesty to all illegal immigrants, allowing them to become permanent residents of the United States and eventually to receive full voting rights. The poll by Rasmussen Reports shows that 70% of Democrats answered in the affirmative to the following question. In general, would you support or oppose legislation to grant amnesty to illegal immigrants and allow them to become permanent U.S. residents? In contrast, 63% of Republicans oppose amnesty for illegal aliens when asked the same question in the poll. Unsurprisingly, 72% of Democrats also find that President Trump's immigration policies are too harsh, while 69% of Republicans support the mass deportations of dangerous illegal immigrants, while 65% of Democrats oppose those policies. These polls show out of touch the Democrats have become on the issue of immigration. They hold opinions that the firm majority of Americans reject. By boldly enforcing the law and deporting illegal immigrants, the Trump administration is forcing the hand of the Democrats to prove how much they hate this country. Because Republicans in the pre-Trump era were too cowardly to fight illegal immigration, continually kicking the can down the road on this important issue, preferring to kowtow to rich donors who liked illegal immigration because it provided cheap labor for them. Democrats were able to conceal their agenda for decades. This can no longer be the case. President Trump's strong immigration enforcement policies are kryptonite to the Democrats, and the midterms bode well for Republicans because of President Trump's bold leadership. Meanwhile, DeCarlos Brown, that's the man accused of viciously butchering 23-year-old Alina Habba to death in a shocking video we all saw that was on a subway car in Charlotte, North Carolina, could now face the death penalty after being indicted on federal charges. A federal grand jury in North Carolina indicted Brown on charges of committing violence against a railroad carrier and mass transportation system resulting in death, which could therefore include capital punishment if he is, as is likely since the crime was caught on video, convicted. Brown had an extensive criminal record, which include armed robbery, larceny, and breaking and entering. Because of lax criminal justice policies supported by the Democrats, he was allowed to freely roam the streets, where he found the unfortunate Alina Habba and tragically ended her life in a brutal display that was caught on video and shocked the entire nation. The Habba case galvanized the country, but then it was overshadowed by yet another horrific tragedy, the assassination of my good friend Charlie Kirk. Both murders highlight how leftism is tearing our country apart. The murder of Habba was no isolated incident. It was allowed because judges are letting those in jail go free and letting criminals back out on the street in the name of social justice. The propaganda made it okay to be targeted because of your skin color, which is unacceptable in this country where everyone must be treated equally. Until serious penalties are reintroduced nationwide to punish criminals, the nation will continue to disintegrate, in my opinion. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to The Stone Zone, and we'll be right back with actress Martha Bryne to tell us the story of her husband, former New York City police officer Michael McMahon.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it, and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Michael McMahon is a distinguished and decorated New York City police sergeant, now retired, who served New Yorkers with honor during some of the most dangerous years of crime in America's largest city. After retiring from the department, he continued to serve through honest work as a private investigator in New Jersey. He was subsequently charged with a crime. His alleged crime was nothing more than accepting an assignment that involved surveillance for clients he had no reason to believe were connected to a sinister operation by the Chinese Communist Party known as Operation Fox Hunt. So what did Michael McMahon do? He took photographs, he observed movements, he performed perfectly lawful investigative work that private investigators across America perform every single day. Yet the U.S. Department of Justice under Joe Biden twisted these routine tasks into a theatrical display of espionage and conspiracy. They smeared him as if he was the one who was an enemy of the state, and they railroaded him into a false conviction. They sent Michael McMahon, a good and decent man, to prison, while the true traitors of our republic walk free. Now, at the center of this fight for an innocent man's rights stands his wife, actress and author Martha Bryne. She has shown courage that can only be described as incandescent. She has written, spoken, and now documented this horrific story in a book, In Interests of Justice, which exposes the corruption and cruelty of this system. And Martha Bryne joins us now in the Stone Zone. Martha, welcome.
Thank you, Roger, for that introduction. I greatly appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to talk to you, sir. It truly is.
Now, if you saw Martha Bryne, you would definitely recognize her. She is an actress, well known for her role in the soap opera As the World Turns, where she played the role of Lily. Then twin sister Rose, for which she won the lead actress Emmy. After leaving As the World Turns, Martha starred on General Hospital, Crisis, wrote for the soap opera Bold and Beautiful, and she executive produced several award-winning and Emmy-nominated digital productions. But she joins us today not as an actress or a professional, but she joins us as a wife and a mother. She is married for over 32 years, I believe, to retired New York Police Department Sergeant Michael McMahon. They have 3 children, Michael, Max, and Anne Marie. And Michael, Max, and Anne Marie need their father home with them. So, Martha, tell us this story.
That's such a beautiful setup. Thank you. I'm honored to talk to you. I met Mike when we were kids, and I was on As the World Turns, and he was this hero cop. He was an NYPD detective during the 90s, with the street crime unit. He was one of the elite chosen. You remember when Rudy Giuliani cleaned up in New York City? Well, guess what? My husband was right there at the front lines doing it, plain clothes, and earned 78 medals while he was on the NYPD. He became a school safety sergeant. He was incredible, had an incredible career. And then he actually got the Combat Cross, which is for a gang-related shooting in the Bronx from Rudy Giuliani. He actually put it on his neck at one police plaza, and had an incredible career, and had a severe car accident during a police chase in the Bronx, and hit a telephone pole at 50 miles an hour, which ended his career. And he was devastated. I mean, he loved the job. He really did. He was a cop's cop. And when he left and he retired from the NYPD, I was working full time and he was with the children, but I could see that he really missed the job. And he started working part time as a private investigator, and he really enjoyed it. And his business took off, and he was doing some great jobs. And then in 2016, he got a routine phone call from a New York based company in the fall of 16. The client wanted to find someone who had apparently stolen money, millions of dollars, from a family construction business. The construction business was in China, but the man had fled to the United States, apparently, and stolen all this money. And the client wanted to, where's the money? And so my husband hired 2 NYPD retired detectives to work with him on this case and did basic work, public records, found out the man had millions of dollars in real estate, LLCs, cars. There was the money, right? And he did some surveillance, notified the local police every single day of surveillance with the other 2 NYPD officers, retired, documented everything. He made a few $1,000s on the case and then moved on with his life. All he knew about the subject that he was following was that the man was alleged to have stolen some money in China, but it was a financial thing, no big deal. And he moved on with his life. And then on October 28th, 2020, you know this, Roger, the pre-dawn pounding at the door, and my children were younger. Obviously, this has been 5 years now. And, the first thing you think when you hear that knock is someone, your children, like, is everybody alive? It's the mother's worst nightmare to go to the door and hear Michael McMahon, because it's my son's name too. And for that minute, you think, this is it. Prepare yourself. Something's happened. No, they were there to see my husband, and they just walked in, Roger. It was so casual. They were talking to my husband in the hallway, and my husband said, are you here about some other case he had worked on? They said, no, we know you from that case, which was weird. They let him walk to his bedroom, get dressed. They were petting my dog. They didn't go to his office. They didn't take his guns. They didn't take his computers. He wasn't handcuffed. The whole thing was strange. And then he gets taken away, and I'm panicking. What the hell has just happened, And I'm in this daze, and then I don't hear from him for hours and hours. Apparently, when he went to be interrogated, he spoke freely. He didn't know why he was there. They never told him why he was there. But he's a cop, He thinks like a cop. If something was wrong or he wanted to be a part of the discussion, like what happened. And as they're speaking to him, they're asking him strange questions, and he remembers a lot of the case and very forthcoming, happy to talk and help. And then turns out he's being arrested for the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, which was bizarre. He only worked for a New York company. He had no evidence that he found that he had in his possession that had anything. There was nothing. And interstate stalking, Roger, interstate stalking. He's a private investigator. He was parked on a public street. The subjects never saw him. So we're thinking, this must be a mistake. Must be a mistake. So he comes home. The press are outside our house. There's a big article in the New York Post that he's China's muscle and he's intimidating people and harassing people. We're like, what is going on? So immediately, Roger, we went to his office and we started looking at all his emails. He had saved everything, every invoice, every text message. He had everything. And we're trying to look and go, there's nothing here. It's a few days of work, a few hours of work from 2016 and 17. What are they talking about? This is bizarre, right? So, of course, we're going to fight this. Of course. And Roger, as you know, as soon as you take that position, you're done.
I think it is abundantly clear in the case of retired New York Police Detective Michael McMahon, this is an upside-down crafted narrative that was developed where Michael McMahon became the villain while the U.S. government protected a rogue Chinese government official and his wife who lied to obtain residency in the U.S. while laundering tens of millions of dollars of embezzled dollars. Let me say two things abundantly clear. There is no evidence whatsoever that Michael McMahon was ever paid by any foreign entity, and he's a fully licensed private investigator. So the media here has glossed over the failure to provide due process and a willful January 6th style behavior by the U.S. government to deny key exculpatory information to defense counsel for Michael McMahon and to possible manipulation of the U.S. government by the victims who happen to be connected to the Chinese Communist Party. who made false statements to enter the country. This is an upside-down world. If I hadn't experienced this myself in the District of Columbia, I would find it hard to believe.
I know. And, I think, there's some things about this case which are truly shocking. So if back in 2017, the FBI knew they had enough evidence that Mike was innocent, and yet they obtained illegal search warrants for years and lied in the search warrants. And we've heard this before, haven't we? Doesn't this sound familiar?
It does.
Now, the 4 years that this investigation went on between the FBI in New Jersey, the New Jersey FBI Red Bank office, and the EDNY, the FBI never spoke to the 3 NYPD detectives, my husband, or the 2 other NYPD detectives retired who were intelligence officers. They never called them. They never. And yet, the FBI was speaking to the Chinese agents all the time, interviewing them, allowing them to flee to China and return. They were protecting the alleged victim. There's communications between Robert Riley, who was an FBI agent retired in New Jersey, and the alleged victim regarding their immigration, a civil lawsuit against them. There was so much collusion going on between the actual criminals in this case, while my family was left vulnerable. Roger, if these people were as dangerous as they're claiming they were, my family was left vulnerable. We were sitting ducks, and they did not protect us. And they had an obligation. There's a law called the duty to warn. When you have been targeted by any foreign entity, you must alert the person that they have been targeted. And instead, they protected the enemy in this case. So here we go. We're going to go to trial. Here we are going to trial. And of course, exculpatory evidence is buried. We can't put in evidence. We're not allowed to talk about Mike's career on the NYPD. Can you imagine, Roger? We cannot tell the jury why this man would never, ever hurt anybody. He's the opposite of that. No good deeds. You know that. They do that in trial. They did it all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm very,
deeds.
very familiar with it. In my case, I was specifically prohibited from the judge from arguing that I had either been selectively prosecuted or that there were political motivations behind my prosecution. I was also prohibited from saying that the prosecutors in my case offered me a deal where they would have recommended no jail time if I had just agreed to testify falsely against President Donald Trump, which, of course, I refused to do. The essence of the U.S. government's case against Mike McMahon is that he didn't file under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But to be guilty of failing to file under that law, one must factually know that their clients are members of foreign government. The FBI and the DOJ failed to demonstrate in this case, based on what I read in your book, that Mike McMahon factually knew that his co-defendants were part of the Chinese Operation Fox Hunt program. There's no legal requirement in FAR for someone to obtain a signed deposition from a client stating under penalty of perjury that they're not an overt or class 9 member of the foreign government. Mike McMahon had no idea what was going on. He was doing legal work, and the government never proved that he was acting on behalf of a foreign government. On the other hand, he was persecuted by a politicized Justice Department. When we come back, I'm going to ask Martha Bryne about where Mike McMahon is now and what the next step is in terms of getting true justice in his case. You're listening to the Stone Zone here on the Red Apple Audio Networks, talking to mother and wife of Martha Bryne, who is married to the former New York Police Department Sergeant Michael McMahon. They have 3 kids. They've been married for 32 years. This is a shocking story of injustice, folks. When we come back, we're going to ask Martha Bryne where the case stands now and what you can do to help Martha Bryne and her husband, Michael McMahon, and their children get justice and move on with their lives. You're listening to the Stone Zone. Wherever you do, please don't touch that dial.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back in to the Stone Zone. We're joined today with Martha Bryne. She's a 3-time Emmy Award-winning actress, writer, and producer with a career spanning over 30 years in the entertainment industry. At the age of 10, Martha starred on Broadway in the hit show Annie, and she's had a successful career. But she joins us today, not as an actress, not as a professional, but as a wife and mother, to tell the horrific story of persecution of her husband, former New York City Police Detective Michael McMahon. She has memorialized this incredible story in a book entitled In the Interest of Justice by Martha Bryne. You can find it online. It is gotten rave reviews. It is a book that every American should read because it is shocking. It details the attacks on her family by the Obama-Biden Justice Department and the unrelenting fight by Martha Bryne to clear her husband's name. Martha, we got about 5 minutes. First of all, how is your husband doing today?
Well, he was in a federal prison in Michigan, a low-security prison. They sent him 600 miles away. Even at the sentencing, by the way, Roger, at the trial, nobody testified against my husband. The case agent didn't testify. The victims couldn't identify my husband in court. And the victims asked for no jail time and no restitution. And the judge gave him 18 months in federal prison because he had no remorse for the victims. Roger, we've just explained who these victims are. These people perjured themselves to put my husband in federal prison. And they sent him 600 miles away as a retired cop into general population. He was there for almost 4 months. He is now in a halfway house in New Jersey. He is a warrior, Roger. He went to federal prison for the truth. He refused. He's done nothing wrong. He committed no crime, Roger. So we're desperately trying. And listen, if Donald Trump, when he hears this story, he is going, first of all, talk about back the blue. NYPD, persecuted, same tactics, making up a case. This was legal PI work, Roger. They took it and they made it look nefarious for the jury, and they lied to the jury every single day. He's a hero.
I think it's abundantly clear his real crime here is that he stumbled much too close to the nefarious illegal operations of the Chinese Communist Party right here inside the United States, where they have set up their own police stations and where Chinese special operators are monitoring their own citizens here in the U.S. As a private investigator and a decorated police officer, Mike McMahon stumbled into that operation, and that had to be covered up because it made those in power look very, very bad. This is a shocking story, should be shocking to every American. I urge you to get to Martha Bryne's terrific book, In the Interest of Justice. But beyond that, I urge everyone out there to pray for justice in this matter. I learned in my own trial, in my own horrific fight for justice, in which I was targeted with the Justice Department, I could have walked away free, no problem at all. All I had to do was agree to lie under oath and incriminate Donald Trump. I would have had to make it up, by the way, because I'm not aware of anything the president did wrong, and I did nothing wrong. In fact, Robert Mueller's final report, which the judge refused to give my attorneys, my defense attorneys at trial, on page 178, we later learned, becomes very clear that they found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. Yet a jury and a judge who essentially prohibited me from having any defense whatsoever, a judge who withheld exculpatory evidence, very much like the judge in Mike McMahon's case, was ready to send me to prison. The prosecutors recommended 7 to 9 years. So I have lived this, and this story should be shocking for every American. Martha, other than buying and reading a great book, which I strongly recommend, what can people do today to help you and your family?
Like you said, prayer. I mean, I know you read the book. I was visited by the Blessed Mother right before my husband was arrested, and she came into my heart and strengthened me, and the prayer has gotten us through this. The Blessed Mother has gotten us through this of prayers. I would also encourage everyone to, if you don't mind, I know Eddie Gallagher, the Navy SEAL captain who was also falsely arrested for murder, who started the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which is pipehitterfoundation.org. They have been supporting us. They support first responders who are falsely accused and arrested and lives are destroyed. They've been with us for years. I'm so grateful to them. They've been a supporter there. So pipehitterfoundation.org, there's a page direct just for Mike, and we're so grateful. We're so grateful, our entire family.
All right, we have to wrap it up there. Please join us in praying for Michael McMahon, his wife of 32 years, Martha Bryne, and their children, Michael, Max, and Anne Marie. God bless you, Martha. Never give up the fight. Folks, thanks for joining us today on the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
What the heck is going on here?
if you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.